Now, the advance of technology has seen a revolutionary transformation in the education sector across the African continent. E-learning's contribution to education in Africa is having a great impact as it allows children who would otherwise not have the opportunity to receive basic education. Now, here to talk to us about the current state of innovation in education across the continent is Terry Behan. Now, Terry is also the director of the Think Africa Group and a frequent contributor to Newsroom. Welcome back, Terry. Nice to have you with us again.
Good to be here.
As always, I start out, where have you been around the continent in the last month or so?
I've been keeping it regional for the last couple of months, Botswana, Mozambique, and a little bit in Namibia as well.
Now, innovation in education. On the African continent, most parents dream of education being the magic bullet to advance your children. Can you tell us a little bit about where education is on the continent right now?
I think it's a really interesting time in education in general. I think parents and society has sort of changed its view. It realizes it can't leave education in the hands of educational departments or governments. It needs to sort of spread the responsibility of it. So you've seen a lot of really interesting initiatives cropping up. You'll see in places like South Africa where there's been a big push towards sort of low income or low cost private schools to allow kids who are coming from families that have a little bit of cash to access the private education system. That's a very, very positive development because that sort of fills a gap that often local government can't provide. We go to places like Ghana where they are heavily focused on preschool education. And UNICEF is rolling out their Innovation in Education program there, where they're taking a wide variety of schools through a process where they're training not just the teachers, but they're training the parents and specifically the mothers. So both the mothers and the teachers and the family becomes responsible for the child's education. It's no longer an outsourced responsibility.
You know, this is the first time I really get excited about these kinds of programs because I do it almost weekly, where we look at issues within education. And the one thing that stands out, children only become successful once the parents are involved.
Completely.
How do you, there seems to be this connection with the need for the parent to be involved, but also technology. How does that paradigm play out on the continent? Because I'm sure technology and resource could be a problem.
It is. It's a big problem. I mean, you jumping from different countries, you go over to the East Coast, you go to somewhere like Sudan, where you have approximately 1.8 million children that are affected by war. So they're in a situation where they're saying, how do I bring a large number of people back into the formal education system? So they have these kind of sort of early learning, or they call it ELS, Early Learning Sudan, where they have this really important bridging program where, again, parents and family get involved in bridging the child's gap to bring them up to standard so they can merge them into formal education. And that's a really big number of people. I mean, you have a similar situation here, but it's not created by strife or war. It's created by just the system we have in education, where there's a lot of kids, schools don't get books, schools don't open, and schools get burnt down. You've got this whole system in South Africa where it would also benefit from learning from the likes of what's happening in Sudan. But to answer your question on the technology front, that's the most exciting part. In technology, we have what's called a digital democratization. So technology is changing the way education is happening. So we hear a lot about these initiatives where we want to bring smart tablets into the classroom. But that's only part of the problem. I mean, in Johannesburg specifically, the Gauteng Department of Education bought 10,000 tablets last year, or tablets last year, to help educate kids, but there aren't 10,000 PowerPoints in the system, so where do you charge them? So you've got these kind of problems. We've looked to Kenya, and we've looked to a solution in Kenya, and we've seen a launch of a new product there called the Kilo Kit. This is an amazing product set where what you're able to do is they've developed this box that's rugged, it can be dragged down the street. There are, you'll see it there coming out the back of the car. It is got 40 small educational tablets inside. And the really exciting part is what they've done with that tech. So you see these tablets, the biggest problem with tablets in many parts of the continent is they break down really easy because of something simple like dust.
And so they're quite fragile, really.
They look fragile historically. So tablets, built for populations of North America and Europe don't work over here. So the Brick Foundation, or Brick Education, has gone and created this tablet that's completely sealed. It doesn't
Yeah.
even have a charger. You drop it back in the box to charge.
Wow.
And then you'll see the guy pressing the button. That is a power source that can be charged off a car battery, that can be charged off solar. So it's a complete off-grid solution.
That's incredible. Who are the leading innovators? Tell us about this project, but this is the leading innovation that we're seeing.
Yeah, I think it's a classic situation of what I call FUBU technology, sort of for us, by us.
Yeah.
It's an African organization creating an African solution for an African challenge. So they design systemically the whole package with local conditions in mind. So they deal with the fact that there's intermittent power. They deal with the fact that there's no Wi-Fi in that area. They deal with the fact that there's a lot of dust. They design all that into the solution, and what you get is a very simple portable product that can be used out of the box, where teachers are learning, the kids are learning, and it's rapidly improving education.
Classroom in a box. It's a brilliant idea. Wherever you go around the world, there's a classroom right there at your fingertips. You don't need books. You don't need anything. How do you get the parents involved in these kinds of things?
Well, it's really interesting. In these kind of initiatives, you have the kids teaching the parents.
Wonderful.
Because kids take the new technology really, really quickly.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
a joy for them. And you know, they're part of the digital age. Even little kids in remote parts of Kenya, like Turkana, what you're seeing on the video. So they bring the parents in. They tell the parents what's happening. And the parents start to see that benefit very tangibly and very freshly. So they start to mobilize around the school and assist them in that process.
Yeah, in South Africa, we have a scenario where we have all this wonderful technology, but at times the teachers themselves are battling with the technology. They can't get to grips with it. Let's call it historical context for whatever, for lack of a better reason. How do you overcome the understanding of the teachers and the training of the teachers in the far-flung reaches of the continent?
I mean, interestingly here, Professor Jonathan Jansen came up with a really interesting solution to that. He spoke about changing the school year and creating blocks where teachers just go on teacher training. And if the teachers don't pass that teacher training, they can't go back and teach in the next year. So domestically, I think he's proposed a really, really smart solution. Education here is a highly politicized issue.
Yeah.
In the rest of the continent, it's less politicized. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants kids to be well educated. So you find the social system that surrounds education now, with the sort of, you know, the democracy of digital technology, is able to bring it into the system. Everybody's able to get involved. Everybody can participate, and it's a much more inclusive process.
The countries that are leading this process, are they mostly in Southern Africa?
East Africa.
East Africa.
Yeah, I see the two leaders in this process as being Kenya, you know, head and shoulders above everybody else. And also I think Rwanda doing some good work there as well.
It's also no coincidence either. Countries that are doing maybe economically a little bit better on the continent right now is East Africa. They are less dependent, one would think, on commodity resources and so forth. But Terry, thank you for joining us. It's always wonderful to have you with us here. That's a wonderful innovation. Where are you off to next?
I'm heading to Botswana on Monday, and then I'm going to the Design Indaba in Cape Town, where they're going to bring the best of the best from design and technology from across the continent and further afield into one location for 3 days.
Fantastic. Hopefully we'll be able to cross to you live when you're in Cape Town. We could get some updates from the Design Indaba. Thank you very much to Terry Behan, who's always with us. Terry is also an author of a book called Connect with the Continent. If you really want to know how to do business and what's up in the continent, you should have a look at it.